Most men over 50 assume coffee is the enemy, something to feel a little guilty about, something a doctor's going to eventually tell them to cut back on. I assumed that too for years. Turns out I had it almost backwards. There's research out there that looked at thousands of men and found something nobody expects to hear. The ones drinking coffee regularly reported fewer circulation-related struggles than the ones who barely touched it. Not zero, not a cure, but enough of a pattern that researchers took real notice. I'll explain exactly why that connection exists and what I add to my coffee every morning that seems to make the whole thing work even better. But first, let me tell you why I even started paying attention to any of this in the first place. I'm 83 years old. In my early 70s, I noticed the mornings getting heavier. Not dramatically, just a slow fade. The kind where you don't clock the change until one day you realize you've been avoiding things you used to do without a second thought. I told myself it was just age catching up. I didn't ask what was actually happening underneath. These days, I'm out the door before most of my neighbors are even awake. I mow my own lawn. I load and unload the truck without needing a break halfway through. And I haven't had a low-energy day that stopped me from doing what I planned in longer than I can remember. I'm telling you that because 5-6 years ago, none of it was true, and the difference wasn't willpower. It was understanding what my body actually needed. So let's get into the mechanism, because once you hear it, coffee starts making a lot more sense. You've probably felt it yourself. Things that used to be dependable aren't quite as dependable anymore. Energy that used to carry you through a full day now taps out early. Maybe something more personal has changed too, something you've quietly worked around instead of talking about, even with your own doctor. You call it stress for a while, then you call it age. Eventually you stop calling it anything and just live with it. Here's what almost nobody explains. This usually isn't really about age at all. It's about blood flow, specifically, a molecule called nitric oxide that tells the smooth muscle in your artery walls to relax and widen so blood can move freely. When that signal weakens, everything downstream feels it. And the arteries in a man's pelvis are smaller than the ones feeding his heart, which is exactly why doctors who study the heart will tell you that changes down there often show up before changes anywhere else. It's not a coincidence. It's an early warning system, and most men never get told that in plain language. Now here's where coffee comes in, because this surprised me too. Caffeine appears to relax the smooth muscle lining blood vessels in a way that supports blood flow rather than working against it, the opposite of what most men assume. A large study that looked at men's health and coffee habits found that men who drank moderate amounts of caffeine reported meaningfully fewer circulation-related concerns than men who drank very little. Researchers think it's tied to that smooth muscle relaxation effect, plus caffeine's role in blood vessel responsiveness generally. Not a guarantee, an association in a large group of real men that was strong enough to get published and talked about. For 3 years, I slept 3 feet away from my wife, and it felt like 300 miles. She'd fall asleep first. I'd lie there staring at the ceiling, wide awake, feeling like a roommate in my own marriage. I thought something was wrong with me. It wasn't weakness, and it wasn't just age. Here's what no one ever sits a man down to explain. This isn't about willpower. It's about specific systems in your body quietly losing steam year after year while nobody tells you it's even happening. The pills my doctor handed me gave me headaches, made my chest feel tight, and honestly, they made me feel like I needed a pill just to feel like a man. I wasn't willing to live like that. There's a gentler way to bring those systems back, without any of that. At 83, my wife and I aren't roommates anymore. I'll show you exactly what changed it in this video, and if you want the simple support I personally use, there's a free presentation linked in the description below. So here's exactly what I do, and it's the part men keep asking me about once they hear how I move at 83. Fresh grated ginger, stirred right into my morning coffee every single day. I know it sounds strange the first time you hear it, but ginger brings something to the table that coffee doesn't have on its own. Compounds that researchers have found act directly on the smooth muscle in your artery walls, encouraging the same kind of relaxation response caffeine is already nudging toward. You're not just drinking 2 separate things that happen to both be good for you. You're combining 2 mechanisms that work on the exact same target, the muscle lining your blood vessels, from 2 different directions at once. That's the unexpected part nobody explains. It's not that ginger cancels out coffee's downsides, it's that they're pulling the same rope. I want to be straight with you because I think that's the only reason any of this is worth listening to. This isn't a magic combination that undoes decades of habits overnight. It's one piece of a small system, and systems only work when every piece is doing its job. Second piece. I stopped drinking coffee late in the day. Caffeine stays in your system longer than people think, and it can interfere with deep sleep hours after you've forgotten you even had that afternoon cup. And deep sleep is exactly when your body does most of its hormone repair work overnight, testosterone included. So the same ingredient that helps me in the morning would work against me if I drank it at 4 in the afternoon. Timing matters as much as the ingredient itself. Third piece. A short walk after that morning coffee, not instead of it. Movement gives your blood vessels practice doing exactly what you're asking them to do the rest of the day. None of this happened overnight for me either. I gave it a full month before I noticed anything worth mentioning to my wife, and I'd tell you the same. Don't judge this after 3 days. Your body needs a little time to actually respond to a new rhythm, especially if you've spent years running on the same old habits without questioning any of them. And I have to say this clearly because it matters more in this conversation than almost anywhere else. Talk to your doctor before you make caffeine or any new habit a daily fixture, especially if you're on blood pressure or heart medication. Some interactions are worth a real conversation with someone who has your actual chart in front of them, not a video. Everything I'm describing works alongside your doctor's plan, never instead of it. My wife noticed it before I did, honestly. She mentioned one morning that I'd stopped needing a second cup just to feel human. These days I'm the one suggesting we take the long way on our walks, the one bringing up trips instead of finding reasons to put them off. That shift, from avoiding plans to making them, means more to me at this age than almost anything else I could point to. Let me tell you about Otis Franklin. Otis is 74, a retired jazz radio DJ out of Kansas City who spent 40 years on overnight shifts, running on coffee the whole way through. So when someone told him coffee might actually be helping his circulation, not hurting it, he laughed them off. Then he tried adding ginger to his morning cup anyway, mostly out of curiosity. 10 weeks later, he told me the thing that surprised him wasn't some dramatic transformation, it was that he stopped needing a nap by 3 in the afternoon, something he'd quietly accepted as permanent for the better part of a decade. That's the real point here, more than the recipe. The problem was never really the coffee, and it was never really just age. It was circulation, and circulation responds to small, specific things you do every single day, including the thing you're probably already holding in your hand most mornings anyway. You deserve more than cut back on coffee as an explanation for what's changed in your body. You deserve to understand the actual mechanism, the blood flow, the smooth muscle, the nitric oxide your body is trying to produce whether you help it along or not. That understanding is worth more than any generic advice a rushed appointment ever gave you. Your erections don't disappear just because you got older. They fade when the systems behind them, blood flow, nitric oxide, hormones, energy, and recovery, slowly stop getting the support they need. Ignore that long enough, and it becomes harder to reverse. That's why I take this concentrated formula every morning. Not one ingredient trying to fix everything, but several working together to support circulation, energy, and drive from the inside out. It's a natural, doctor-backed protocol designed to support pathways your body already knows how to use. No prescription, nothing artificial. Stronger, present, confident again. And unlike the pills I tried, I didn't feel disconnected from my own body. No headaches, just steady, gradual change. My wife noticed before I even said a word. The presentation is linked right below this video. It won't replace your doctor or a healthy lifestyle. It's simply there to support your body. At 83, my wife and I aren't roommates anymore, and it's not too late for you. If you already drink coffee every morning and you're curious to try this, or if you've noticed something like this yourself, tell me about it in the comments. I read every one. And if you want more honest, no-nonsense conversations like this, go ahead and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.